Okay, this lecture is for global geophysics students. So just to give you some background, they're honors students in geophysics. Most of them have come though from physics and have limited geology background. So global geophysics is really an opportunity for them to learn a bit more about geology. So it's complicated. You've got fourth year students, but on the geology level, they're learning stuff at a first year level. Like it's mainly just information. But you're also trying to get them to question about it. So it's a difficult mix. So we're on Sakai here, this is the course, and I've clicked on lessons. And lessons is a great way to just give the students a workflow. And so here's the welcome note and the calendar for the course. And then ideally here you would have all of your lectures listed. So if you're going to have 15 lectures, I don't know, for the topic, you would have them all here. I only have one because obviously I haven't been using it largely for online before. I've just been putting stuff in the resources folder. So what we still need to do is this Plumes and Hotspots lecture. We missed it because of the last week of term. So students would click here. And so I've just done at the top here some of the questions you might have. And I just say we'll answer these questions in this lecture. And then I've broken the lecture down into 9 different sections. So the first one is reflection. They will reflect what they already, or what they think of when they hear the words plumes and hotspots. Decoding scientific jargon. I'm going to use a forum here for them to discuss with each other what do these concepts mean, because they will be new concepts to many of them. I've got a video here about plumes and hotspots. I also mentioned to them, though, that even though we talk about plumes and hotspots, it's actually quite a debated topic in scientific literature. And the aim of this debate is just to show students that you can't take at face value what you read in the textbooks. It might come across as fact, whereas actually there's a debate raging about it. And we should, as scientists, constantly question. Number 5 here is the source of plumes. So this is going a bit deeper into the earth and seeing where these plumes originate from. There's an article here for them to read and answer questions. So I forgot to mention there's also questions here for these videos. We look at simulations of mantle flow. So just a YouTube video showing how the mantle moves, because it is such a way out there concept. We can't see it in front of us because the mantle is deep inside the earth. So just to give them an idea of how things are moving. But again, it's just simulations. It's not real. Then a reflection on what they've learned. They can go through a checklist to check they've understood everything, and then an assessment at the end. Just to give you an idea, I would have had 6 hours with them in a week. So this would have been over those 6-hour periods. So it might seem like quite a bit for just a 45-minute lecture. It is not. It's over those 6 hours. So I would click on reflections, and you can see it says write in the comment box below what comes to mind when you first hear the words mantle, core, plumes, and hotspots. And I've done this before at a teaching workshop with people who had no geological background, and it was amazing to hear their feedback about these topics that in my mind automatically jumped to geological, and in their mind I think they spoke about peach cores. And so just to make us aware as lecturers that what our students think when they hear the word is not what we think. And so I said here, you don't have to write scientifically, no scientific jargon, just use this opportunity as a practice for just free writing. I said, please don't Google. Your answer doesn't have to be right. It isn't for marks. I just wanted them to just write what comes to mind. So they would click on add comments, and they could type in this box here their comments and click save. So you can, along the way, set these as prerequisites. So what I mean by that is I would click on a button when I'm setting this up to say, student has to fill in something here before they can go on to the next step, to avoid students skipping sections. Okay, so once they've done this, they would move on. So I'm going to click back. Next thing here says decoding scientific jargon. So it says in the forum below, write the first thing that came to mind when you think of the word plume or hotspots, and do this by creating a new message. I just wrote this because forums can be a bit weird if you've never seen them before. It's not like WhatsApp. I said you can copy and paste what you wrote in the comments box in one above, or you can write something new, and they have to comment on at least 2 other people's messages. So it's to try and get a discussion growing among the group. So a student would click here on this forum, and so it says here, what is the first thing that comes to mind? So this is a repeat. When you hear the word plumes and hotspots, write a new message of your thought, comment on at least 2 other people. So I've put in here 2, you see, you would click on Start a New Conversation. I've added 2 new conversations pretending I'm a student. And so they would click on New Message, and then they would have to go comment on 2 of their friends. So for example, I would click on this one, and this person has written, the first thing that comes to mind when I hear plume is a plume of smoke rising up. When I hear hotspots, I think of a stove. And so I would have to comment it, and I could reply. And I should have written there only constructive feedback, and I could write here, thanks for your honest opinion. I hadn't thought of those associations. I've tried to do it here for one of my conversations so you can see. So the second conversation I put in, oh, let me go back. You can see it says here 1 message, and here says 2 messages. So there is a reply here. So I click on it, and I said, what did I think of when I heard about Plume and hotspot? I thought of the field school I was able to attend to in Hawaii, which is a hotspot. And the person would reply, and they said, you lucky fish that you got to go to Hawaii. So this is how you get students to comment on each other's stuff. It's definitely not a WhatsApp group, so it's not this constantly trending conversation where you've got to scroll back. You've got to go into each person's conversations, which I think students aren't always used to. So from here, I'm not 100% sure how to go back unless I just click on the Lessons tab. And here it's taken me right back to the beginning. So unfortunately, I have to go down. So students would have written about that. And then I've said here, do you have a better understanding of what plumes and hotspots are now that you've discussed it? And people can click yes, no, I'm even more confused. They can submit their answer, and they can even show the poll so they can see what their friends are thinking. So I click back. Next step here is this video. So I've said watch this YouTube video below. So this is where the problem comes in. I mean, Willem knows as well as I do that if you watch a YouTube video, even though it's in Sakai, you're still going to be charged for this. We need to figure out how to work around this because YouTube has phenomenal videos that we can't lose out on. So barring illegally downloading this video and then uploading it to Microsoft Streams, which I know we don't want to do, I have no idea what else to do for this. So they would watch this video, hopefully, and then it says answer the question below. If you don't know the answer, then rewatch the video as many times as you need, or do some of your own research on Google, or check the polls of your friends' answers and do some peer-to-peer learning. And so what I mean is that as I go down there, so I've tested this one. So next one says, what does it mean that a hotspot in general stays fixed relative to plate motion? So student can say, oh, I have absolutely no idea. They would click on number 2, they would submit their answer, and they could see, they could show the poll, and they could see what their friends were getting. Okay, and there's several questions that they can run through from the video. And then they would go back here, and number 4 is Plume Debate. So I just say here that I'm trying to make the students aware that there's actually debate raging around whether plumes really exist and that we shouldn't take for granted what we just hear. And so I say watch the lecture below in Microsoft Stream. I mention here that it's 0 rated for MTN Telkom and Vodacom, and it won't be charged. So students, because it cannot be embedded, will have to copy it and paste it. Let's hope I pasted everything. Okay, so in stream, the video will come up here. And you can just click on it.
Okay, so far we've been learning about...
Okay, and you can see here transcript on the right-hand side, which is wonderful. So students would go through this, and I say the lecture PDF can be downloaded here. And then I say, after watching this video, participate in the poll. So I try to ask them to pick a side of this debate. So I really don't need them to know a lot of detail. I just need them to know that this debate exists. And then I say, give some thought to the question below. And I just say to them, what in your university career have you taken as fact that you maybe could have questioned a bit more? So just to get them in the questioning mindset. So once they've done 4, go on to 5, the sources of plumes. Again, remember this is not all one lecture, it's over a week, over 6 hours. So here I talk to them about the sources of plumes, how plumes originate, and I tell them to read this article below. So it's a PDF they can download. It's a really nicely written article from, let me get it right, EOS, which is the American Geoscience Union, and it's a really easily written article, easily accessible, not very confusing. So I said this article highlights the long road ahead that we have to understand the Earth's interior, and I asked them to list one question that has come to their mind after reading this article. And I say to them, it can either be because you didn't understand the article because it wasn't clearly written, or maybe a question you feel scientists have missed. Then here we talk about stuff about where these plumes come from. It's all temperature and compositionally related. I asked them to answer a poll here, and then another poll here just to get them to read through the last section of the reading again, because that is the most confusing bit, and then they have to answer a question here. So it's really just to get them to go through the reading. The main things I wanted them to take away from the reading was just learning what this LLVP or LLSVP is, which results in these plumes. So again, this lecture is a very broad understanding of the topic. Here, simulations of mantle flow. I say look at this video below to understand mantle simulation. So this is actually the Earth, and this is a cross-section of the Earth from the core mantle boundary to the surface, and the different colors represent different temperatures and how stuff is moving in the mantle. I say to them, you need to pause it and look at it slowly. I did a screenshot here and explained what all the different colors mean. I gave them the paper where this originally comes from, and I said use this information to answer the questions below. I again said if you're confused, look back at the video or use your peers' answers to help guide you, but I do say please try and understand why you're choosing a certain answer. And so there's several different questions. Here I tried, if the student chose the wrong answer, to give an explanation. Let's see if it works. Submit answer. Okay. So to give an answer, not just that it's wrong, although I should have probably gone back and given a bit more explanation. Okay, so what have we gone through already? We've got to simulations. So it pretty much covered everything by now. And so now I'm wanting them to reflect and get out the main points. I said spend 10 minutes. Obviously, I'd like them to spend more, but I didn't want to scare them. Summarizing the main points you've learned and put them in the comment box below. So I can see what they write, but then it's also for them. And I said, what one question still remains for you regarding hotspots and plumes? Post it in the forum below. Again, I said you must comment on 2 of your peers. So this is a different forum. I've said here final question, and they can post here. So the main thing is for me to see if they're confused, if there's some questions I can answer, or if maybe they're completely understood and they're thinking bigger picture and asking relevant questions. Number 8 here is a checklist I've given them. So I said by the end of this lecture you should be able to confidently tick the box below, and I said if you can't, go back through the material or do some additional self-study or investigation online so they can do the ticks. I should then be able to check on the checklist and see where the gaps are. And then the last thing here is the assessment. So I wanted them to draw a cross-section of the Earth and to bring in everything that we've seen now, that they've learned. They've learned about LLSVPs, about plumes, about hotspots. How does it all tie in with the crust and the mantle? This is all stuff we've learned in previous exercises. So I say to them, draw this cross-section, and then I say, take a photo of your sketch and upload it here. This is the deadline. Review a colleague's sketch and suggest improvements by this deadline. This is the link to the assignment. If you click on it, here is the assignment. I think because it's not open, you can't do anything. But here's the assignments in the lists. So let's just go back. And then the last thing I said, submit your improved sketch by this deadline. So I had to create a second assignment because otherwise it gets a bit confusing having 2 submissions, and sometimes they overwrite their old one and blah, blah, blah. So I thought it was easier to do 2. So that is the summary of the lessons. So I've tried to do formative assessments along the way, just checking out how they're doing. And in the end, this is a summative assessment of everything they've learned in this lecture. Reminder that it's over a week, over 6 hours, and it's really giving them a broad understanding of the topic. Most of them don't have a strong geological background, so that I just want them to have an understanding of these concepts. Can I put a disclaimer at the end here? I think a lot of lecturers are going to struggle setting up something like this in 2 weeks. So it did take a lot of effort. I think I had a lot of this already. I think most of your lecturers, especially of the older generation, are going to be quite daunted by online learning. And I think our most realistic expectation right now is PowerPoints with voiceovers to be put online. I think this is ideal, going this way of forums and assessments and polls, but I think some of the lecturers are going to struggle and they need support, and it's support that cannot be given right now because we are not at the university and we can't come to sessions, and CLTD can't come to our offices. So I think this is doable for younger lecturers who are comfortable with these topics, or tech-savvy older lecturers, but I think we need to keep our expectations lower and look at PowerPoints. Everyone knows how to do them and how to load your voice in the background. So that would be my suggestion.